Well, making sound financial decisions today can impact the later stages of life. Estate planning is a smart way to be prepared for the future and also to ensure that all personal financial decisions are taken care of. So we have Goralka Law Firm works exclusively on estate, business, and tax law, and John Goralka is the only attorney in Sacramento County that is a certified specialist by the California State Bar in both taxation and estate planning. So John joins me now to tell me more about the importance of an estate plan. So welcome to the show, John. And tell me, who should be concerned about estate planning?
Hi, Melissa. It's great to see you. Well, really, everyone should be. For example, I have 2 kids in college, Patrick and Elizabeth. I'm very proud of them. But we lose sight of the fact that when kids are off to college, they're actually adults. So even for college kids, you're going to want to have some type of durable power of attorney or advanced health care directive. But then for most of us, there are certain triggering events that make estate planning much more important. And those typically involve people being dependent upon you, such as getting married, having children, those sorts of things, and acquiring assets as a home and other accounts. And when those things happen, then it becomes much more important to do estate planning.
But pretty much almost anyone then is what
That's
this
correct.
sounds like.
That is true.
Okay. And what should a really good estate plan do then?
Well, really a couple of things. And the first thing is you want to make sure that if something happens to you, if you're sick, you're not able to act, that somebody's going to be able to step in immediately and help take care of you, take care of the financial things that need to be done. And then beyond that, we want to make sure that when you pass away, that your assets go to the right people at the right time and to keep the wrong people out. You know, for example, again, I have 2 kids, Patrick and Elizabeth. I want to make sure my estate goes to them. But then, you know, Patrick, he's 20 years old, and truth be told, is a little bit more mature than I was at his age. But nevertheless, he suffers from what I call instant withdrawal syndrome. Money in the account, withdrawal. Money in the account, withdrawal. So perhaps we don't want to have things go to him immediately. We want to stage that out, or those sorts of things. Or somebody may be older, they may have a special needs issue. And then also, you know, my kids are both young, and so if they get married, I don't know who they're going to get married to, or who they're become involved with. And I want to make sure if I leave my legacy to them, I want to make sure it stays for them and it's not caught up in a divorce or creditor claims or even other taxes and so forth.
Okay, so it's really important to even think ahead to those very, very minute details.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they're very important. Okay, so then what seems to be the best option then for most people?
Well, really for most people, I think a living trust, and I think people really understand that. And as I say, for most people, you know, once you have people that are depending upon you, then you need to have something in place. And so, for example, I was a single parent for many years. And when you're a single parent, you don't have a lot of assets, you don't have a lot of stuff, but nevertheless, you want to make sure your kids are cared for. So I'll have life insurance. But even with life insurance, I want to make sure I have some type of a trust so those proceeds are getting to my kids at the right time, so that will benefit them throughout their entire life. And a living trust is really the best vehicle to do that. So again, you're able to make sure it's going to the right people, getting to them at the right time. So for example, they're younger, maybe we want to have some type of educational incentives or other types of incentives to try and make sure that we can encourage maintaining certain family values and so forth. Also, we're going to want to make sure that if they have a special needs situation, maybe the funds are used in an appropriate way there, or maybe you have somebody who's too old and you want to make sure that it's there to benefit them, but not to get caught up in all of that. So again, living trust is the best way to do that. And then again, also keeping the wrong people out, trying to protect those assets from a divorce, from creditor claims and those sorts of things. And one of the things that we're able to do, with our trust is we're able to build in what we call a personal asset trust, which is really a sophisticated asset protection trust for your kids or your other beneficiaries, to make sure that when things are going to them, it's going to be going just to them and it's going to be protected. And it has a number of very strong incentives, protecting from divorce, protecting from creditor claims, providing significant protection from bankruptcy and those sorts of things, and also protecting it from estate tax, so that way if it's subject to estate tax, when we pass away, that's right now the rate's at 40%, and then when it goes from your kids to the grandkids, it can be subject to a second level of estate tax. So again, that's another mechanism, so that way we can try and avoid that, to make sure that those assets that we're leaving to them are not going to be subject or caught up into those types of claims.
Wow, you're extremely detailed. There's so much information, so don't go anywhere, John. I know there are many more questions that our viewers probably have too. So after the break, John will be back with more financial tips, including details on how to attend his informational seminars. You do not want to miss that. Make sure you stick around for more Sac Co. That's coming up. And welcome back. We are back with attorney John Goralka of the Goralka Law Firm, where they specialize in making every client feel empowered by their financial decisions. Now, Jim is an individual who was concerned about stretching his retirement dollars and also planning his estate. That was before finding Goralka Law Firm, and he shared his experience with us.
John really cares about his clients. His care extends to wanting to provide, I feel, the best product he possibly can. that meets the needs and the desires of the client that he's serving. And he's unusual in that respect. I don't think it's so much the money that he's going to make building an estate plan, but that the plan that he gives you is one that you can really count on.
Now, John, my first question for you is, why is it really important to have existing trusts reviewed after 2013?
Well, really, the whole estate planning world is really kind of upside down now in many ways. We used to have very high estate tax rates, and we had a lower estate tax exemption. And right now, each of us has a $5.34 million exemption, so that means we can pass $5.34 million worth of assets to our children or their loved ones without having to pay estate tax. If we do have an estate tax, it's at would be now a bargain rate of 40%. It's been as high as 52 and 55% in the past. But not too terribly long ago, the estate tax exemption was only $675,000. And so many of the things that estate planners, that lawyers would do to avoid estate tax would actually end up creating a higher income tax. And right now, all those very low Bush-era tax rates are gone. Wish we had those back again. And many times, if you're at the highest marginal tax rates, you're going to be paying greater than 50% income tax. Many of the things that estate planners would do to avoid estate tax can cause you to lose a basis step up, or can cause you to pay a higher income tax if assets are sold. So it's very, very, very important to do that. And then also, that's extremely important if you're a married couple. One of the most common things that estate planners would use would be a marital formula to try and allocate assets between a surviving spouse and a deceased spouse. And it would be done in a way that would be minimizing estate tax to preserve one of those marital exemptions. But the problem is that can really cripple your estate plan. So what may happen is a surviving spouse may actually have extremely limited access to up to 1/2 or more of their combined estate, which is a very difficult conversation for me to have with that person. So again, that's very, very important to be looked at. And also HIPAA. HIPAA is the Federal Privacy Act, and of course California has its own version of that. And so you want to make sure that none of those things there that are designed to protect you actually make it more difficult for somebody to step in and act. And then finally, retirement accounts. Again, we have the much higher income tax rates, and with retirement accounts, they've actually changed the rules so that way you can actually leave your retirement accounts to your children. And one of the unique things about a retirement account is, of course, you're not paying any tax until you hit the age 70.5, and then what you have is required minimum distributions. And now, for example, my son is 20, my daughter is 23. If something were to happen to me, I can structure that so that my retirement accounts will go to my children, and my son Patrick, who's 20, will have 50.5 years of tax-deferred growth. So the numbers are really just staggering. So it's very important to look at that. And then finally, the laws have really changed. The things, just like cell phones and TVs and computers and so forth, things are newer and improved, and there are other planning opportunities that are available now that weren't there before, such as the personal asset trust that we talked about, which is really a mini asset protection trust designed to help protect your children or loved ones.
So it's always good then to kind of stay on top of how things are evolving. Even if you may have a trust already in place, it's best to just make sure that you're keeping up with how things are adjusting. So, I mean, John, you are clearly so informed and an immense resource. Tell our viewers, how can Goralka Law Firm help them?
Well, first, we don't charge for an initial meeting, so that gives a chance to meet you, get a chance to see what you have. If you already have an existing trust, we can review your trust and provide a written analysis of that as to whether it's going to work or whether there's going to be any problems. And if you don't have a trust, we can go through that. But we found, because there are so many choices out there, it's very difficult to really go through that. And so what we like to do is provide information in an educational format. So we have a number of seminars. And so that might be the best way to start, is actually to attend a seminar, so that way you have a better understanding of what your choices are. And it makes my job a little bit easier, so that way when I meet with you, then you already have an idea of what some of the choices are, some of the things to think about. And so the folks that do attend a seminar, we provide a discount for, because again, it reduces the time that we have to spend going through and educating clients about those choices.
That's great. So is this the best way that you recommend that our viewers get started with you then?
I do think probably the best thing is to call. If you have an existing trust, you can make an appointment, but have a look. And as I say, on our website, you'll see that there are a number of seminars that we have on an ongoing basis, and that's something that we enjoy providing from time to time. We have seminars on living trusts. We have a seminar coming up that's estate planning just for retirement accounts, so we can talk and focus specifically on how to best to structure the retirement accounts if you're leaving those to additional to other family members.
Great, and there's a benefit too if they come to the seminars, right?
Right, they get a fee discount, so that way they get a chance to meet us. We get a chance to meet them. They get an understanding to see how we work, what the process is, and also I think even if they're not moving forward with us, it's really in an interactive format, and the idea is really to give them an understanding of not just what a living trust is, but also how a living trust might fail. And for a consumer, that's really, really important to know that the living trust that you have. I think a lot of people, they may have a living trust, they may have put that in place maybe 20 years ago. They have a binder on their shelf that says living trust, and they feel it's great, it's going to work.
Yeah.
But if you don't actually double check that and make sure it's going to work, then you may have a problem. And if there is a problem, it may be very too late to fix that, because again, the trust is a standby device designed just like your airbags to deploy if there's an accident. The problem is if you have an accident and the trust is there deployed, but it hasn't been properly maintained and serviced, then it may not deploy, just like your airbag. So again, it's important.
All right, so you got to make sure you stay on top of it.
Yes, absolutely.
John, thank you so much.
Oh,
you are so impressive. Really enjoy talking to you. Thank you so much for your time. Well, coming up, we have details on a new community clinic that provides quality and affordable health care for families in need. Sac Co continues right after the break.